Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at our 10-gallon tote that has African Nightcrawlers in it. It's been 39 days since my last update on this system, but I knew I was going to let it sit for a while the temperatures were cold out and just sort of let them sort of mellow in the system as long as it had the moisture it needed. Now, it is starting to warm up here. We've had our couple 80-degree days. It's starting to warm up in my basement a little bit. Still cool because it takes a while for the ground to warm up and everything around the basement, but it is starting to warm up. And with that, these worms, these African Nightcrawlers that like these higher temperatures should really start to come to life. So we're going to take a look at this system, see how it's doing, maybe add some food in here too just to see if we can get them going. I actually have something new to add, and I'll show you that along the way. So with that, let's take a look at the system and see how it's doing. All right, here's our African Nightcrawler tote here. So we're going to go ahead and flip this over. First off, there's a lot of moisture on the surface here. Not surprising, this system does really well with holding in the moisture. We do have a lot of mites in here, I'm noticing. I don't know if you can see those or not, but there's a bunch of mites. These are red mites crawling around on the surface there. I see a whole bunch of them actually right over here. There's a whole bunch of mites right over there. So, not a big deal. I've seen them plenty in my system, so I don't really worry about them, but they are there. And I can see actually on this side, it looks like they were crawling up the wall a little bit. And it looks like there might be a little bit of mold in here, maybe on this side. But look at this material. It's looking really nice. I'm already seeing worms. Look at this. Look at that. Already finding worms in here. Nice, big, healthy worms. So this is a good sign. So straighten this out a little bit more. Good sign right there already. And look at these castings. The castings from these worms are just great. I feel these African Nightcrawlers. And what we're going to do, let's just dig down in here and just see. I mean, it looks like they've worked through almost all the paper in here. I'm seeing a lot of them too. I mean, these were almost dead from what I remember. I mean, like this bin, I mean, they only had like 20 worms in here or something. Look at this. I already have, 5 right here. 6. 7. Look at that. They're a little smaller. These are still the African Nightcrawlers. These are some big worms. But look at this. You can just see they're all over here. This is a great sign. They've really come back. Oh, here we go. Here's a nice big one right here. Look at that. Still not as big as they were when I first got them, where they were as long as my glove here. But they are still really big worms. And we're finding a lot of them in here. I was really, really worried about this system. Oh, there's more over here. I mean, I was really, really worried. But you can just see there is a ton of them in here, and they're doing really well. And they've worked through almost all this material. This is pretty filled with cardboard from what I remember. And they've worked through almost all of it. Oh, hold on. Here we go. Maybe that's all on this side. Maybe that's why. There we go. I was going to say, there's got to be more cardboard in here. We did combine 2 systems into this, but they still weren't a ton of worms. So it looks like, but it seems like they're not really liking the cardboard like I thought they would. I thought they'd really sort of gravitate into here and really go through this cardboard, but they're not really. I was hoping that this would all be gone, but that's okay. They can still work at this cardboard. We're just going to break it up, add some air to it. And it looks like they are working at this corner over here where they're really moving along the surface. Right over here. Got a nice big worm right over here. So they are working over here. Just not as much as I thought. So we might need to kind of mix this together, although some more worms in the bottom here. So maybe this is just a little dry. I don't know. It does feel a little bit dry comparatively. But the castings that these worms put out are just so amazing. And this looks like it's still a lot more broken down, I think, than what it was. I think this was very, very not broken down last time. When I added these together, I think you could really tell. You can almost read the paper. Some of this is still pretty fresh, it looks like, compared to where it should be by now, but it is being worked at least. So, all right. Yeah, I'm seeing this white like mold that's sort of growing over stuff here, which is very unusual. I don't really see that in my bins, but this system was kind of moist, as you could tell from the moisture on the lid. A little bit compacted down in here too. So eventually I'm going to probably move this around and help get these worms in maybe some slightly better shape here. But for right now, this is fine the way it is. I'm not going to add food in the normal way. Let me mix this around a little bit. There we go. Just kind of mix these castings around, get everything worked in a little bit. There's plenty of worms in here, but we're going to add something a little bit different this time. Something that I've never added to my systems before, and something that I saw on a couple channels. All right, took me a couple seconds to grab this here, but what I've been growing here is some wheatgrass. And I wanted to tear off a small chunk of it here that I could throw in here. Now, I've already harvested this for food for myself a couple times. So they say the third harvest isn't very good, so I'm not going to harvest it a third time. But as you can see, a nice big root structure on here. This is actually cocoa coir that I grew it in. But we're going to go ahead and put this on top face down and see if we can't lure some of these worms up into this material. So I'm going to do that, and then we're going to add some water to it because it's very dried out. I was trying to let it dry a little bit because it was growing some mold. Because I waited a little longer than I wanted to, so we're going to add some water to it. A little bit more than that. This is my water with the BTI mix, by the way, if you're curious. So we are still adding that same water. Or, refreshing it, but and you can see this holds a lot of moisture. It actually didn't even leak through yet. Really, that's still pretty dry there. So this holds a lot of moisture. We're going to put that on top, but we're not going to really add a whole lot of moisture to this system. But my goal is to try to get the worms to kind of come up into this and have this be a new food source for them. So I'm going to go ahead and take this tape off on the side here. We're going to put it right over here. I'm going to put some tape over here just to mark where we last fed. And this is hopefully going to let the worms work through something that's brand new. Now, I saw this wheatgrass thing on Captain Matt and the Worm People channel, and also the Garden and Worm Lady. They both have been using wheatgrass for their worms. Now, I know for Captain Matt, he grows a lot of it, and he feeds it just directly to his worms. I'm actually growing it for juicing purposes, and then I'm letting it grow a third time, and then I'm putting it in here for my worms. So, similar type thing, but I'm just trying to use it for me, and it just happens to be a great waste product for the worms, I think. So, we're going to try this out, see how it goes, and we'll see what comes up the next time we check into this. With that, thank you for watching. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and let me know.